Antivirus checkers have an extremely important job to do on your computer. They monitor all files you're accessing, all websites you're accessing, to make sure everything is safe and is not going to harm your system. But what if that antivirus checker is looking at all that data you're accessing and selling it on to a marketing company? Well, that is exactly what Avast, AVG and CCleaner have been doing. Now, this really blew up for Avast around the end of January. And initially I was just going to do this video poking fun at Avast, going, look what they've been doing, how bad it all is. Should we all be surprised that a free product is not free at all and you are actually the product on these free items of software? But no, it turns out there's a little bit more to it. I didn't actually realise Avast and AVG were the same company. It hadn't really dawned on me. But AVG were caught doing exactly this back in 2015. So I will show you everything I've uncovered here, which is quite a bit. This is how the story blew up, with PC Mag and Vice doing an investigation into Avast, uncovering some of the documents and the details about some of the data that's being harvested. Although last month Mozilla and Google booted the Avast extensions out of their web stores. So relax, that is what Avast told the public after its browser extensions were found harvesting user data to supply to marketeers. The antivirus company tried to justify the practice by claiming the collected web histories were stripped of users' personal details before being handed off. The data is fully de-identified and aggregated and cannot be used to personally identify or target you. Avast told users who opted into the data sharing, yes, I'm sure you opted in and weren't just opted in by default, that in return your privacy is preserved, Avast gets paid, and online marketeers get a trove of aggregate consumer data to help them sell more products. Now, I think a key item here is that the antivirus can see everything you do. It is not like one tracker who may see one small part of your browsing, or in the case of Google, about 2/3 of your browsing. No, they see everything. There's just one problem. What should be a giant chunk of anonymized web history can actually be picked apart and linked back to individual Avast users, and how de-identification can fail. So the data was sold to a company called Jumpshot, a company that Avast actually owns. Now, there's quite a bit about them, and they did not start life as a marketing company. They actually started back in 2012, but I'll come on to that later in this video. So the data collected is so granular that clients can view individual clicks users are making on their browsing sessions, including the time down to the millisecond, and while the collected data can never link to a person's name, email or IP address, each user's history is nevertheless assigned to an identifier called the device ID, which will persist unless the user uninstalls the Avast antivirus product. Now, I guess the same goes for AVG and CCleaner as well. So there's a basic view of what a click can theoretically look like, and they're saying at first glance the click can look harmless. You can't pin it back to an exact user, that is unless you're Amazon.com. So the example is against Amazon, so you could easily figure out which Amazon user bought that product at that time. Suddenly the device ID is a known user. And whatever else Jumpshot has on this particular ID's activity, from other e-commerce purchases to Google searches, it's no longer anonymous. Vice have done a nice little graphic here, but they mention until recently Avast was collecting the browsing data of its customers who had installed the company's browser plugin, which is designed to warn users of suspicious websites. So yeah, it starts with Avast, the data going to Jumpshot, and the data being sold to various other companies. This story started gaining a bit of traction back in December 2019 in an article from Forbes. Are you one of Avast's 400 million users? This is why it collects and sells your web habits. Avast doesn't just make money from protecting its 400 million users' information, it also profits in part because of sales of users' web browsing habits, and has been doing so since at least 2013. That's led to some labelling its tools spyware, the very thing Avast is supposed to be protecting users from. Both Mozilla and Opera were concerned enough to remove some of Avast tools from their add-on stores earlier in the month. And the same happened with Chrome as well. There's this forum post on Avast back in 2015 from the then CEO, detailing a bit about how Jumpshot works. So data is collected on computers and Android devices through the browser. Each record contains a set of fields that helps Jumpshot algorithms assign a clickstream data appropriately. These fields include installation identifiers, URL being visited, a referral URL, a window identifier, a tab identifier, additional fields for processing purposes. In reality, the information Avast processes to Jumpshot looks like this, but the key thing here is it actually has the parameter of the URL in there, so it's very specific, and given that sites like Amazon will assign a particular parameter there for each user visiting the website, it's very easy for them to identify who is who on there. But they do say prior to processing, all records are automatically scanned for personally identifiable information, and the POI parameters values are removed from the raw data. Okay, but just how much is removed? This was a story I remembered back in 2015 when AVG announced they would start selling personal data to third parties. But if we go across the AVG privacy information, they do say that enable use of your personal data to create a de-identified dataset that is provided to Jumpshot to build trend analytics, products and services. We will always ask for your consent before any processing that requires it and provide you with necessary information through our consent policy, which if you go and look at, returns a 404 because the page does not exist, because presumably they're getting a bit afraid of all this. But fortunately we can look on the Wayback Machine, looking at the consent to privacy from 2 days ago. So that's pretty recent. So I don't know why it's disappeared now, but yeah, I guess they're getting just a little bit afraid of all this. So we have some information here on the trend analytics. So partnered with their subsidiary Jumpshot, to include all the information we've mentioned already. So when using the free antivirus for desktop or antivirus for mobile Android, you may grant us consent with use to the following data. Oh dear, it all relates to the URL of websites we visit. So yes, a very unique identifier which, should you be the purchaser of some of this data, you will know exactly what the user is doing, or a particular ID is doing. And if we take a look at the privacy policy for CCleaner, which is owned by Avast, you can scroll down and you see mention of Jumpshot there, as well as AVG. It's all the same company. Interestingly, Jumpshot did not start life as a marketing tool. It actually started life as an anti-malware tool. So it began as a Kickstarter project and exceeded its $25,000 goal in just 2 days with 600 backers. The software acts like a police officer, bound to protect and serve your computer from evil. It wipes viruses, spyware and other crud off the system that regular antivirus software may not find, as well as prepackaged unwanted software from the manufacturer. Unwanted software, spyware, what like Avast? So Jumpshot also investigates your PC's functionality to uncover why it's running sluggishly. The leader is Officer Pete, whose passion is fighting grime. He currently has 10 minions, including, actually that's the only part of that sentence I wanted to read, because if we go on a little bit to 2013, Avast Software acquires Jumpshot to work magic against slow PC performance. And scrolling down a little bit, well, it hasn't loaded the image there, but it does say Minion Officer Pete. Oh, referencing back to the original Kickstarter, are we? And yet, fast forward on until 2015, Grime Fighter is now Avast Cleanup. So it's completely renamed from the original product, and Jumpshot seems to have been rebranded to a marketing company, to which they did nicely make public some Amazon purchasing data and other digital consumer insights to marketers. So a digital intelligence firm is revealing selected insights it gets from a panel of more than 100 million devices worldwide. So Jumpshot collects web activity data and then makes insights on that data available to subscribing brands. So yeah, they made some of the data public onto digitalconsumer.com. Now that website just redirects back to Jumpshot, but I did look on the Wayback Machine to see what it was about. But you can't actually get any further details about it really. The data's not been archived, so it's, well, gone forever. Well, gone forever for those of us without any kind of subscription into the Jumpshot data. Some of Avast's hundreds of millions of users agree to allow streams of anonymized data from their devices about website behavior, including visits, searches and purchases, in a flood of data that amounts to 5 billion clicks daily. The users don't receive an incentive for providing this data, and they're not sure about how many of the millions of devices are actually represented. I'm sure that's just a sneaky way of saying that people aren't actually agreeing to all this. And there's a bit more information about what Jumpshot are up to in 2018. So where searches happen on the web, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and beyond. I know this is not directly important to the video, but it just shows the level of data they're actually obtaining. I suppose one point worth mentioning is where the number of searches are taking place, that Amazon are receiving more searches than Bing. And perhaps the final sentence is worth a mention that mobile data is Android only, as Jumpshot doesn't yet collect data at any scale on iPhones. Now I wonder if that's anything to do with the restrictions put in place by Apple. Apple are actually really concerned about user privacy, and I expect they did try and restrict the level of data that Avast and AVG are sending over to Jumpshot. So moving on to July 2019, Avast sell 35% of Jumpshot for $60 million US. And they sell it to a company called Essential, which deal with analytics and marketing data. So it's just gone to another company with the same ideals. And to finally conclude this story, Avast won't sell data to Jumpshot anymore. So there is a blog post about this, which I did read prior to starting this video, but I've not been able to get back into it. I don't know what Avast do to their website, but they kneecap it somehow, and I can't access it anymore. These are all cached pages. So the CEO has apologised and says protecting people is Avast's top priority. So terminated the Jumpshot data collection and wind down Jumpshot's operations with immediate effect. Well, as I showed, you're not entirely in control of it, so another company owns it. So it could still exist. They still have the data and they can still sell it. So I have to say, for a security product, this is absolutely horrific. You might as well have a malware on your system because it'd be less invasive than the so-called antivirus. But I suppose it just sums up these free products. It's only free because you are the product. You're paying for it with your data. And by the look of it, it's been going on for half a decade. 2015, they made Jumpshot the marketing gathering company that it is. And this was known about with AVG, and yet people are just sat there ignoring it. And I should have made the connection myself. There's a video recently I even mentioned how much data appears to be coming from Miss Quids' computer, which has Avast on it. And it's all unencrypted as well, so anyone could see the traffic. Which is the next company that's going to be identified, giving away all the information that people are going to be absolutely outraged about, immediately uninstall it, or then install it again later because they've forgotten about it. My advice, if you're using AVG, Avast, or CCleaner, get them off your system. They're just no good at all. Well, thanks for watching. I'll see you all later.